Hello and welcome to the F1 News Zone. I'll show you around up all the biggest stories in Formula 1 right now. We are currently in the week before the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, so here are the biggest stories before we head to Imola. This week, Franco Colapinto has been swapped in for Jack Doohan at Alpine, Lando Norris has criticised Max Verstappen's driving in Miami, and the real reason behind Oliver Oakes resigning as Alpine Team Principal have been revealed. If you're watching on YouTube, skip to the timestamps in the video to watch the story that you are most interested in. So, without further ado, let's dive in. An absolutely shocking turn of events that nobody saw coming whatsoever, especially after Oliver Oakes was resigned from his position as team principal of the Alpine Formula 1 team. Jack Doohan has been replaced by Franco Colapinto at Alpine. I never saw this coming. I definitely didn't say last night when I recorded that video. That video, by the way, I've literally posted, an hour or two before this one? It might actually come out at the same time as this one with some of the different platforms. And yeah, Colapinto's in the car, which, look, before anybody says it, I got a lot of Argentine subscribers on here. I respect you guys. You know, I like you guys. I like chatting with you guys. I think Colapinto is a better driver than Jack Doohan. I think it's really clear with how this season's gone for Doohan and how last season went for Colapinto. So from a performance point of view, it absolutely makes sense. No problem with it whatsoever. To be honest with you, I'm not that annoyed about this. It's more Oakes and his sacking. That has really been quite ridiculous, and I've done a video already going over that. But yeah, Franco Colapinto is going to be in the car for Imola. It was heavily rumoured that he was going to be in the car for Miami, and that kind of died away a little bit, but he had an absolutely shocking weekend, did Jack Doohan in Miami, and unfortunately for him, he broke the golden rule. He criticised the team, and he criticised indirectly Flavio Briatore. I know he didn't say anything about Flav, but at the end of the day, he of course criticised the team, and we all know what Flavio's like. He's rather fragile when it comes to criticism like this, so he's always going to give you the boot, even if you are literally one of his drivers. But let me just read out this full statement here. Alpine have done a full statement on it, probably a longer one than what they did for Oakes, all of 5 sentences I think it was, and no word whatsoever from Flavio Briatore, unsurprisingly, because I'm pretty sure those two had a pretty big falling out. But let me just read out what's been said here on the F1Chronicle.com, guys, and I'll give some more of my thoughts at the end. I think from a performance point of view, it absolutely makes sense, and I hope Colapinto does well. I do feel for Jack, but you know, he hasn't performed. You know, and I said this in my 5 rookies reviewed thing after the first 5 races of the season. I gave Jack Doohan a 4 out of 10. I'm pretty sure for his performance levels. He's just not performed in Formula 1, unfortunately. Either the pressure's got to him, or he was never quite talented enough in the first place. I think it's more the pressure getting to him. But hey, this is Formula 1. It's a high pressure cooker environment. It's the pinnacle of motorsport, and if you don't perform, you're out. I personally think that drivers should be given a whole season to kind of prove themselves, but not everybody shares that viewpoint. I understand that. So anyway, Colapinto in the car for Imola. As part of an ongoing assessment of its driver lineup, the team has made the decision to rotate one of its race seats for the next 5 rounds of the Formula 1 World Championship. So this is not a change that is going to be for the whole season, although presumably if Colapinto performs well, gets some points, which Jack Doohan did not manage to do, he'll be in the car for the rest of the season. A bit like with Williams, how like if things didn't work out in the very short term, they could have done something else, but yeah, he performed well in that car, didn't he, last season. BW Team Alpine Formula 1 team therefore announces that Franco Colapinto will be paired with Pierre Gasly from the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix ahead of a new evaluation before the British Grand Prix in July. Jack Doohan remains an integral part of the team and will be the first choice reserve driver for this period of time. Franco, who was one of the team's test and reserve drivers, will race the number 43 on the A525 and will partner Pierre Gasly for the first time in Imola ahead of 3 races in 3 weekends in Europe, which also covers the Monaco Grand Prix and Spanish Grand Prix before 2 races in June for the Canadian and Austrian Grand Prix. Flavio Briatore had his word on it. I don't really care what you have to say, to be honest. The full article, like I said, is on the F1 Chronicle if you want to see what he said about this. But let's have a look at what Franco and Jack have said, because this is bound to be interesting here. Firstly, I want to thank the team for giving me the opportunity to drive competitively for the next 5 races. I will work hard with the team to prepare for the next race in Imola and the upcoming triple header, which no doubt will be intense and a big challenge for everyone. I have stayed sharp and I am as ready as possible with the team's race support testing program, as well as on the simulator in Enstone. I will do my best to get up to speed quickly and give it my all to deliver the best possible results alongside Pierre. Jack Doohan said the following: I am very proud to have achieved my lifelong ambition to be a professional Formula One driver, and I will forever be grateful to the team for helping me achieve that this season. Obviously, this latest chapter is a tough one for me to take because as a professional driver, naturally I want to be racing. That said, I appreciate the team's trust and commitment. We have long-term goals as a team to achieve, and I will continue to give my maximum efforts in any way I can help to achieve those. For now, I will keep my head down, keep working hard, watch with interest in the next 5 races, and keep chasing down my own personal goals. Yeah, it's sad for Jack, but like I said, he hasn't performed well. He really hasn't. And a first lap puncture in Miami. He was nowhere during the sprint race. It's not great, is it? He's not scored any points. He's one of the few drivers to not score any points. Pierre Gasly's been in and around the points the last few races. Yeah, I understand it. I do. I don't have a massive problem with this, really. I don't. You might get that impression from my intro, but I'm just annoyed about Oliver Oakes because it's very clear that to me that he's been ousted, been forced out of the team, made to look as though he's resigned because Flavio's like, no, we want Colapinto in the car for the next race. I'm tired of waiting. And you can kind of tell with Oakes that Oakes was on a similar kind of thinking to what I was saying. Every driver, every rookie should get a full season to prove themselves. They need time in the car. But Briatore wants results now, which I get. You want results now. And it's not like they're putting in a very experienced driver who's going to be a bit of a stopgap till they get some young talent in. Colapinto is that young talent, and he's a very good talent at the end of the day as well. I really do rate him highly. And I think he'll do well. I think he'll do better than what Doohan has done. I think he's going to probably get points within the next few races. Although that Alpine, yes, it is better than it was 12 months ago, but it's not great. They're in 9th in the constructors for a reason. Even if they've had 2 Pierre Gaslys in there, they'll probably only be up in 8th. So it's not a great car. It's going to be a challenge for him, but Williams were in a similar position last season when he joined them. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens, guys. But yeah, Colapinto in the car for Imola and the next 4 races after that. Correct decision. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. There's been a lot of talk and rumours recently about Carlos Sainz running for FIA President. No, not that one. His dad. This one. Of course, Carlos Sainz Sr. is a legend of World Rally Championship. He's won 2 titles in that series back in the 1990s and also has competed at Dakar, one of the most grueling motorsport events in the world to this very day, winning it, 4-5 times, I think, an incredible amount, and he won it as recently as 2024 as a plus 60-year-old. So this is a guy that absolutely lives and breathes motorsport, and at the time of recording, this has not been officially confirmed by either the FIA or Carlos Sainz Sr. And I really, really hope that he does do this because currently as things stand, Mohammed Ben Sulayem, the current FIA president, the current very controversial FIA president, I might add, is running unopposed. Unless something changes, unless somebody like Susie Wolff or Carlos Sainz Sr. comes into that role and actually tries to take him on in the elections, because as things stand, like I said, he's going to win it again, win another term, and do so unopposed. Now, I personally think this is a really good thing. I would really like to see Carlos Sainz Sr. in this role. I mean, Mohammed Ben Sulayem, if we're going to speak about his motorsport career, which isn't the most relevant thing really for the FIA president, but he didn't have the best career really in motorsport. I've looked over his motorsport career. He won the Middle Eastern Rally Championship 14 times, but he tried to compete in WRC and relatively he was absolutely nowhere, picking up a few points here and there over quite a journeyman career, every now and again appearing in the WRC. Carlos Sainz Sr. is regarded as one of the best rally drivers of all time. He's been in and around the FIA and that kind of circle really for a very long time. I think he's an ideal candidate. Now, there is one caveat to this. There is one big criticism of Carlos Sainz Sr., and that is that there might be a conflict of interest. Now, what these people are claiming is the fact that obviously his son, Carlos Sainz Jr., he's a Formula One driver. Indeed, he's actually a director now of the Grand Prix Drivers Association, the GPDA. He took on that role this year, I believe. He started doing that. So some people are saying there's going to be a conflict of interest there. Some people are saying that he's going to look out for his son. He's going to give an unfair advantage to his son, which honestly I think is a load of rubbish. That is not going to happen. I can't see that happening personally. And I just don't know how he'd even do that. How are you just going to benefit Williams and nobody else? Or if another team, if you move back to Ferrari or moves to, I don't know, Red Bull or something like that. I mean, the guy's driven for half the teams on the grid at this point. Why not? So I don't see that being a problem. I understand why people might have a concern about that, but I don't have a problem with that personally. I don't think that's bad. I mean, and plus, even if that was the case, let's just say that was the case, and he was trying to make things unfair in favour of his son. I don't know how he'd do that, but let's just say he's trying to do that. Do you really think that kind of corruption is anything like what we're seeing on the side of Mohammed Ben Sulayem, where he's basically sacking anybody who disagrees with him? He's basically trying to be really heavy-handed with things. I mean, he was elected apparently on the promise of being a very hands-off kind of president. He's not going to get involved in things. And now the dude's like getting in the podium celebrations all the time. Did you see him in Miami as well? Just standing around really awkwardly being like, yeah, great podium, fantastic job. The drivers don't even like him. And I don't blame them, to be honest, with the way he's been acting. The things he's been saying and doing are absolutely abhorrent for a FIA president. And for me, he's not fit for the position. Carlos Sainz Sr. might well be fit for the position. He's never done anything like this before, but with how high profile of a figure he is in not only motorsport circles, but also the Spanish culture as well. He's a real famous son of Spain. I think he's going to be a very popular choice, and I think he'll do a damn sight better than what MBS has been doing, because frankly, it'd be hard to do worse. So yeah, by all means, let him run. I want to see him do this. I want to see him taking on. The Susie Wolf rumors have kind of gone away a little bit, so I want to see him try and take on that position. But guys, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you want to see Carlos Sainz Sr. as the president of the FIA? Is there a potential conflict of interest there between himself and his son, who of course is a current Formula One driver? Your thoughts in the comments below. The debate about whether Lando Norris was right to attack Max Verstappen at the start of the Miami Grand Prix, whether he should have waited, whether Max Verstappen was right to push him off the road, whether he did push him off the road. A lot of questions are surrounding this incident at the start of the Grand Prix on Sunday, and I kind of wanted to go through what all sides are thinking in terms of McLaren's Lando Norris, Max Verstappen from Red Bull, and also the team principal Andrea Stella. I've got all the quotes here on this article on the F1Chronicle.com. I'm going to go through it, and I'm going to give my take on it at the end of the video, because it is a very controversial incident in the sense that it's very hard to form a complete opinion about what was right to do. And I think no matter what, it was kind of a very difficult situation for Lando Norris at the end of the day, and I'll explain why as we go through this. But let's dive into this article here, guys, on the F1Chronicle.com as always. McLaren's Lando Norris has criticised Max Verstappen's approach to racing at the Miami Grand Prix, suggesting that the four-time world champion's aggressive defence against both McLaren drivers may have cost him a podium finish. Norris, who lost 4 positions on the first lap after ending up off the track when attempting to pass Verstappen, and race winner Oscar Piastri, both engaged in intense multi-lap battles with the Dutchman throughout the race. He's fighting hard, but it's up to him to do that. He's ruining his own race. He's not racing very smart. He probably could have finished 3rd today, and he didn't because of that. So yeah, he's fighting. That is always expected. But that's what it is. Verstappen, who ultimately finished 4th behind Mercedes driver George Russell, dismissed the notion that losing the podium was frustrating. Honestly, it's not frustrating at all to lose a podium. We are here to win today, and we were miles off that, so it doesn't really matter if you're P3 or P4, he said. I had nothing to lose, so I also just wanted to have a bit of fun out there. Norris's own race was significantly impacted by his first lap incident with Verstappen after challenging the Red Bull on the outside of the first corner and attempting to pass around the outside of the second corner when Verstappen ran slightly deep. Norris was forced off the track and into the runoff area, slipping down to 6th place. McLaren team principal Andrea Stella suggested that Norris could have been more patient with his approach. McLaren team principal Andrea Stella suggested that Norris could have been more patient in his approach. With the benefit of hindsight, let's say that considering the situation in corner 1-2, it could have been better for Lando to just lift off and make sure that he could have kept the 2nd position, because the car, again, with the benefit of hindsight, we see that was very fast, and he would certainly have passed Max like Oscar, and then later Lando was in condition to do so, Stella said. Indeed, McLaren actually finished around 30 seconds ahead of George Russell, who finished in 3rd place. It was an extremely dominant victory for them. The biggest 1-2 margin of victory in years. I can't remember when they said it was in the commentary, but a long time. I think since like the start of 23. I think Red Bull might have managed it with Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez at some point, but even then, this was arguably even more dominant than that. So I think, like every situation in racing, you have to approach it with the mindset of reviewing where the opportunities lie. And I think in this case, Lando could have been a little bit more patient. Norris was further delayed in his battle with Verstappen when he passed the Red Bull at turn 11 by going off track and had to give the position back before ultimately regaining it in the following lap. Despite closing in on teammate Piastri in the second stint, Norris ran out of time to challenge for the lead. Stella, however, saw no problem in the approach taken by his driver when racing against Verstappen. Both drivers were approaching the overtaking in a way that had Lando not gone off by a few centimetres in corner 11, he would have completed the overtaking in what was a similar time. So I don't think we should overread too much into situations. I think it's, like I said before, it's a matter sometimes of a fraction of a second or a fraction of a metre, he said. The big time loss came down to having to give back the position. So I think in terms of overtaking manoeuvres and precision and determination, I don't see there's anything different between the two drivers. Right, so there's a lot to unpack there. So the first question that a lot of people will ask is, the first question that a lot of people will probably ask is, was Verstappen right to defend as vociferously, as passionately, as harshly, some people might say, as he did, getting the elbows out? And I think he was absolutely right to do that. There's no problem with him doing that in terms of the rules. Now, whether it was the best thing for his race to do that is very debatable. Now, I've seen a few people say that he should have took a more holistic look at things and been like, look, the McLarens are clearly faster. I might as well not fight them too much, because my real battle here is with George Russell, with Kimi Antonelli, with the Ferraris behind. And I understand that viewpoint, but at that time, it looked as though it could have rained. And if it rained, particularly with McLaren being up there with both drivers, and would have had to potentially double stack their cars, losing time in the pits as a result. And we know how good Verstappen is in the wet as well. He wasn't far off winning the Grand Prix in Australia when it was wet. So if it rained, and we obviously had experience of it raining as well early in the week with the sprint race, Verstappen could have come to his own. Yes, he was slower in dry conditions, but in the wet, would he have been faster? Would he have been better? Possibly. Given his form in previous wet races, probably, I would say. So I understand why he did that. It's easy to say in hindsight, well, it never rained, but there was a genuine threat of rain, and indeed it did rain a little bit. We did see some droplets on the camera, so it was very close to raining during the race. That storm, that rain pattern that was on the radar, that only just passed the circuit by the tiniest little margin. If that hit, we're talking about a completely different Grand Prix here. Now, when it comes to Verstappen, some people will say he pushed off Lando Norris on purpose in the first few corners. Some people would say that, he was just fair racing. For me, it was borderline. But it's always going to be borderline with Max. He pushes things to the absolute maximum, as he has the right to do. Any good Formula 1 driver worth their salt will try to overtake or try and keep their position. That is what they do. And I think in the benefit of hindsight, like Stella said, to be honest, I think Norris should have probably backed out. Now, some people again argue that, well, the gap was there and he should have gone for it. And I sort of agree to an extent with that. But I also think, it's a classic notion of, you can lose the race in the first corner, but you can't win it. And you could argue that he could have won it if he got past, but was he ever getting past there? Around the outside through turn 1 and 2? No, I don't think he was really. It's not an easy place to pass. You have to have the overtaking manoeuvre done pretty much into the corner. He had a right to go for it, in the sense of it being legal, and there's nothing wrong with it, but in the sense of, again, looking at his race on a whole, thinking, well, Verstappen, and again, they might have known that they were that quick. They might have not known. I think they probably knew they were very quick. We didn't have, dry conditions for the entire race on Saturday. Indeed, we only got about 1 or 2 laps of green flag running in the dry weather tyres, I should say, at the end of the race before the safety car was thrown, and then it finished on the safety car. So, yeah, the data might not have been there for that, but I think they should have known they were very quick. But then again, maybe they didn't. They didn't get pole position. Max Verstappen did. So it's a tough one. I have to say that I don't have a big problem with Norris taking as long as he did to get past. Because like Stella rightfully says, unfortunately, him getting past Verstappen was not the real problem. It was the fact that he was behind him in the first place and behind his teammate. That's what ultimately cost him the race. You know, Piastri, for me, was backing off in the closing stages. Norris closed that 9-second gap down to about 3 by the end, but I think he was doing a classic Alain Prost. I mean, I've likened Piastri to Prost quite a few times, and I think that really, this race in Miami, again, it rubber stamped it for me. I think he really did look like Prost. He won the race, not by the smallest possible margin, but he won the race by a smaller margin than what he could have done. He could have gone hell for leather. He could have just gone absolutely unleashed the pace of that McLaren and just not look back. But he didn't. He didn't. He did that earlier, built a gap. And when Lando Norris got past Verstappen, he just matched his lap times. In the closing stages, took it easy. Easier on the engine. Let's not forget, it's not just about this Grand Prix. It's about all the races for the rest of the season. They've only got 3-4 different power unit components, depending on what they are for the whole season. So managing that is key to a championship challenge. If he loses a few seconds in Miami but still wins, he could well gain extra engine life, extra engine power. Places like Monza, places where there's a lot of high speed, you know, Baku, places like that, Las Vegas towards the back end of the campaign. This could all prove really, really crucial for Piastri. And while he's doing this, he's picking up little points. He's picking, not talking about championship points, we're talking about confidence points. I'm talking about his, the points on his car effectively. You know, he's getting better life, more durability in his components. It just all feeds into it, and all at the same time. That's 3 victories in a row for Oscar Piastri. So for me, yes, I can see why the incident was investigated with Verstappen and Norris. Absolutely, look into it. But for me, no problem. It's hard, but it's fair. If you're Lando Norris, again, look at the onboards. If you look at Lando Norris's onboard, it looks dodgy. I will admit, it doesn't look great. But look at it from Max Verstappen's POV. Look at his camera. He gets a bit of oversteer, a little twitch of oversteer on throttle, and that's kind of what pushes Lando Norris off more than anything. I don't think he did it deliberately, but even if he did try and push him off, he had the right to at that point. He was the lead driver. He had the corner. He dictates the line. That's the difference between Miami and Saudi Arabia. Oscar Piastri in Saudi Arabia was the lead driver, and then Verstappen passed him off the track. This is a completely different incident. That is why Verstappen correctly got a penalty for that in Jeddah. And this is also the opposite reason. This is also why Verstappen did not get a penalty for this in Miami, which I also believe is correct. But what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below. Should Verstappen have got a penalty? Was he smart by defending as well as it is against McLaren's? He was unlucky. The reason why he got past was not purely because he was defending from the McLarens. It was also because there was a VSC and George Russell passed him under the virtual safety car when, of course, the pit lane lost time is less than in green flag running. So he was a little unlucky too. But if he didn't defend so elbows out against the McLarens, he probably would have finished third, I think. But you don't know these things. It's if, buts and maybes. You are preparing for a situation that may never arise. And I've just spent 12 minutes talking about this. You know, I love Formula One, and I hope that explains it for you guys. You know, this is the kind of mental... And then, by the way, it took me 12 minutes to explain this. These guys should be making these mental calculations in, seconds, or they are making them in seconds. That's the kind of brain power that they have to be able to drive these cars absolutely full throttle and do these mental gymnastics at the same time. And it's hard to take a whole kind of thing of a perspective of the race at that point. That's why they got teams of people. They got hundreds of dudes back in the UK or wherever they have team bases calculating things. That's why they have these big teams, because there's so much going on in Formula One, and a lot of it you don't see. So yeah, your thoughts in the comments below, guys. Right, so the Oliver Oaks situation is absolutely crazy, and I use that word in the most literal sense. This is insane. So for those that aren't aware, if those have not been watching F1 news for the last couple of days, you will have seen that Oliver Oaks resigned as the boss of Alpine, the team principal of Alpine. Now, this was obviously followed by the news that Franco Colapinto was going to replace Jack Doohan in the second seat for that team. Now, it seemed to a lot of people, including myself, as though some kind of power struggle was going on between Oaks and Flavio Briatore, the team's executive advisor. And that might have been the case. We don't know what's been going on behind closed doors. But something that's been happening outside of closed doors, in the actual outside world, is that Oliver Oaks' brother has been arrested for allegedly transferring criminal property. He was arrested at Silverstone on Thursday, and he has been in police custody ever since. Now, this adds a whole new layer to what is going on here. Oliver Oaks might well have actually resigned because he wants to lay low, given what is happening with his brother. And let me explain why. I'll just go through this. Normally, I don't read the actual article itself on this. I've been trying to get away from that for you guys. I know you guys like a bit of variety in there, and that's absolutely fine. But given that this is in the Independent here, that I was linked by my good friend John. John, if you're listening or watching, thank you very much for tuning into the channel, and thanks for providing this information. Shout out to you, my man. But yeah, let's just go through this because this is absolutely wild. Oliver Oaks resigned as Alpine F1 team principal on Tuesday night, just days after his brother was arrested, it has been revealed. William Oaks, a fellow director at Junior Team High-Tech Grand Prix, was arrested in Silverstone Park last Thursday and charged with transferring criminal property a day later. Police state the 31-year-old was in possession of a large amount of cash. The police statement adds that he has been remanded in custody, having appeared before Northampton Magistrates Court on Saturday. Oliver Oaks, who is not accused of any wrongdoing or links to the arrest of William Oaks, joined Alpine from High-Tech last summer. High-Tech, of course, for you guys who aren't aware, are a Formula 2 team. It's kind of a nice promotion to see Oliver Oaks get a big job in Formula 1 after that. But yeah, if you know anything about High-Tech, you'll know what one of their biggest backers is, and we'll get into that. Oliver Oaks, who is not accused of any wrongdoing or links to the arrest of William Oaks, joined Alpine from High-Tech last summer. High-Tech, of course, being a Formula 2 team, for those who aren't aware. He resigned on Tuesday night, one day before the team changed their driver lineup, with Jack Doohan dropped for Franco Colapinto. The report in the Telegraph details that the ex-Alpine boss Oaks flew to Dubai from the Miami Grand Prix last weekend, but his current whereabouts are unknown. A statement from the Metropolitan Police read, William Oaks, 31, of Rugby, was charged with transferring criminal property on Friday, May 2nd, after he was stopped in the Silverstone Park area in Northamptonshire on Thursday, May 1st, 2025, in possession of a large amount of cash. He appeared before Northampton Magistrates Court on Saturday, May 3rd, and remanded in custody. The Independent has approached High-Tech Grand Prix for further comment. In 2022, High-Tech was 75% owned by Russian oligarch Dmitry Mazepin. Yes, the Mazepins. The Mazepins are involved in this. Who would have guessed? Who had close ties to Russian President Vladimir Putin. Mazepin initially bought a stake in 2016 when his son Nikita joined the team to compete in Formula 3. Oliver Oaks took full ownership of the team 9 days before Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, forming a new company, High-Tech Global Holdings Ltd, on 11th of March 2022 to take control of shares from Mazepin's Cyprus-based company, Bergton Management Ltd. High-Tech Global Holdings Limited was formed 3 days after the Mazepins were sanctioned by both the UK government and the European Union. Nikita Mazepin, who was a Haas F1 driver at the time of the invasion, was sacked by the team before the start of the 2022 season. Haas also ditched their Mazepin-owned title sponsor, Uralkali. Nikita Mazepin has since been cleared to return to competitive racing after a ban was overturned by the Court of Justice of the European Union. Meanwhile, an assumed disagreement between Oaks and Alpine executive advisor Flavio Briatore over the driver swap was denied in a joint statement on Wednesday. A statement attributed to Oaks read, "It's been a privilege to lead everyone at Enstone. What a team, what a place. It is a personal decision for me to step down. Flavio has been like a father to me, nothing but supportive since I took the role, as well as giving me the opportunity. Everyone in place for 2026 and where this dream deserves to be. I believe in Enstone." Briatore added, "Me and Ollie have a very good relationship and a long-term ambitions to drive this team forward together. We respect Ollie's request to resign and have therefore accepted his resignation. The reasons are not related to the team and are of a personal nature." My God. Just when you thought... I mean, look, I'll say it. I'll take back my comments. Well, some of my comments anyway from the other day. Alpine are a mess. Not necessarily for this, but Alpine are a mess as a Formula 1 team. But my God, the rabbit hole that I've gone down with this is unbelievable. So, yeah, allegedly having that criminal money. And obviously with the ties to the Mazepins, with the sanctions on Russia going on, this is really bad. And honestly, I mean, I'm not saying, for legal reasons, I am not saying that Oliver Oakes has something to do with this. But given the fact that he has resigned as Alpine Team Principal, maybe because he thought, well, I don't want all these questions. I don't want to face all these questions when they come out in the media. I'll go to Miami and then I'll quit. Maybe that's what he thought. It is also entirely possible he has something to do with this. I'm not saying he does, but it's possible. And if that is the case, then he will want to very much lay low. So we will bring you any updates when it comes to this, guys. I want to hear your theories about what's going on here, because this is fishy. This is deep criminal underworld type stuff in Formula 1. Who would have thought it? Criminals being involved in F1. Well, that's never going to happen, is it? Not like Flavio Briatore was a convicted felon and escaped prison back in the day. That's exactly what he did, by the way. Go look Flavio Briatore's Wikipedia page. It's absolute insanity. But yeah, so maybe Oliver Oakes was not got rid of because of Colapinto. Maybe they made that switch in part. Maybe they're going to do it anyway, but maybe they made that switch in part because they're like, we want to make it look like we've pushed him out. I don't know. I'm really confused about all this, to be honest. But like I said, when we get some more news on it, we'll bring you here on Formula Reports, guys. Have a fantastic day wherever you are in the world today. And yeah, Formula 1, what the F1 is going on?